Social Perception, Part 2. Introduction to Social Perception. In this presentation, we'll discuss stereotypes, prejudice and discrimination, impact of activism, social identity and self-esteem, relative deprivation, social categorization, and social identification. Presentation main points. Stereotypes are beliefs that people form about others based on their group membership, which categorizes others' behavior without taking in consideration their individuality. It is typically a natural process that most human beings do unconsciously and a complicated tendency to overcome. Stereotypes could lead people to make erroneous conclusions about others, since most of the time they do not have all the facts and information available to them. Prejudice is the result of stereotypes, which leads to negative feelings about other people just based on their group membership. There are different types of prejudice or discrimination, such as racism or sexism. These week readings and presentations also talk about the effects of stereotypes on targets and how biased attitudes towards them often make them deal with negative feedback. Some studies show that stereotyped individuals' academic performance is jeopardized, and when stereotypes are removed, those same individuals' academic performances improves and in compare to unstereotyped individuals. Daniel Shepard and Nicola Six studies failed to demonstrate the relationship between music preferences and self-esteem among social groups, specifically young people's group. Dinadia Y. Bashir and her colleagues' research show people's resistance to show or to change because of the activist use of unconventional and sometimes eccentric methods to promote social changes. Dr. Derek Shady textbook talks about relative deprivation, meaning how people look at inequality situations in their lives. The deprivation theory researches how dissatisfaction, anger, and injustice sets in when people feel deprived of entitlements. In all instances, it looks like people feel that group deprivation it is more vital, typical, and important than self-deprivation. The social identity process is at the heart of the social psychological theory and research because it has to do with individuals and social issues such as health and living conditions. So social identification researches how daily individual interaction influences other individuals of the same group or how the group's actions impact each individual as well. Finally, we need to discuss social categorization, which is an essential part of social perception, and how we group people by race, gender, age groups, and the implications that propose these classifications on others and on ourselves. Stereotypes, prejudice, and discrimination are very complex issues that require research, investigation, and definitions. Racism, for example, is prejudice and discrimination based on persons' skin color, ethnic background, language, or even race. In some instances, people are discriminated against because of their gender. Many women receive less salary for the same type of work that men do. These three categories, stereotypes, prejudice, and discrimination, can operate somewhat independently, but most of the time, all three of them are together, reinforcing each other. Our nation is experiencing a high level of racism against the African American community because of the police stereotypes. The fact that our president supports actions against this group is creating a considerable divide in our nation, provoking intense hostility feelings, fear, and distrust among those groups involved in the process. Stereotypes generate anxiety and fear against other groups, such as gay and lesbian individuals, overweight people, and many others. Ambivalent sexism is another form of discrimination characterized by attitudes about women that reflect both negative, resentful beliefs and feelings. Some men talk to women as if they are inferior, basically patronizing them. That is discrimination. Impact of activism. Despite recognizing the need for social change in areas such as social equality and environmental protection, individuals often avoid supporting such changes. Researchers have previously attempted to understand this resistance to social change by examining individuals' perceptions of social issues and social change. Dr. Nadia Bashir and colleagues' study explored the possibility that individuals resist social change because they have negative stereotypes of activists, which are basically the agents of social change. This study reveals that participants had negative stereotypes of activists, regardless of the importance of the social cause for which they are protesting. Activists are viewed as the extremists, eccentric, and militant troublemaker. Furthermore, these stereotypes reduce participants' willingness to affiliate with typical activists and ultimately to adopt the behaviors that these activists promote. These results indicate that stereotypes and persons' perception processes more generally play a crucial role in creating resistance to social change. Impact of activism continuation. One of the reasons that stereotypes, prejudice, and discrimination persist is because they are caused by multiple factors. There are many sources fueling these problems, and they operate both independently and combined. Some of these issues surface from the way our human brain processes and remembers information. Others can be traced to motivations and goals that drive us to see or react to our social world in a particular way. Others are concerned about how groups of people are represented or valued in one's culture. At the root of stereotyping, prejudice, and discrimination is the fact that we divide our social world into groups. As perceivers, normally we sort each other into groups on the basis of gender, race, age, and other common attributes in a process called social categorization that we will discuss later. Relative deprivation. Relative deprivation is an exciting concept that explains the subjective reaction of people when they face situations of inequality in life. There are many theories from social sciences related to relative deprivation. Some of these theories are the frustration theory, the justice theory, the hedonic relativism theory, the theory of revolution, and the social comparison theory. All of them explore human reactions to the central issue of facing inequality at a given point. Some people react to inequality with anger, while others look for equality through the judicial systems or by keeping a very low expectation, which in turn produces satisfaction. Another aspect of this concept is the distinction between personal and group deprivation. Studies show that many women did not reveal individual deprivation when they were paid 20% less than men for the same type of work. Still, they reported high levels of group deprivation because they felt that as women in general, they were victims of sex discrimination. Social categorization and social identifications are two concepts that run hand to hand. The theory basically established that individuals subjectively decide to which individual and collective group they belong to, while they also determine who the outsider groups are. Personal identity is a unique sense of self, while social identity is the personal sense of identity or belonging as a member of the group. The persons define his or her level of belonging to a specific group. The theory addresses how stereotypes at all levels, individual, in-group, and out-group, interrelate with each other, and depending on how they categorize or relate to each other, will affect social perception. Social categorization and social identity theories are at the heart of social psychology's research with the intent to understand and correct intergroup relations and shaping intergroup attitudes. Social identification changes from individual to individual and from situation to situation, reflecting the extent to which group membership is incorporated into individuals' self-concept. Social identification denotes that a given individual perceives his or her group and his or her membership meaningful and important. This sense of belonging and acceptance normally increases self-esteem. Social categorization theories. Finally, social categorization theories classify individuals in terms of personal or social identities. Personal identities have to do with how individuals relate to one another, while social identities deals with how groups relate to one another. Personal attitudes, principles, and values serve to stereotype others, individuals, or groups. It is essential to understand the changing nature of people, cultures, and societies, as well as the complexity of different cultures. Our nation is an excellent example of the diversity of the individual components that form our culture and our society that actually integrates us as Americans. The revelation of the diversity that challenge opportunities should change individual groups, communities, and society that compromise nations across the globe. People and groups need to understand that they will not live forever, meaning that they need to make a better effort to reduce in-groups and out-group distinctions, fights, and wars. In conclusion, people all over the world believe that their nation, culture, language, and religion are better and more deserving than others. Leaders, individuals, and groups promote prejudice and discrimination to advance their agendas of world domination. Stereotypes, threats, can affect the identity and self-esteem of the members of the stereotype group. Studies and research reveal essential information regarding stereotypes, prejudice, and discrimination taking place around us, around the world, right now. Some of the factors to reduce stereotyping, prejudice, and discrimination are promoting intergroup contacts, facilitating connections, sharing identity with others, and adopting a multicultural rather than colorblind perspective. Furthermore, we need to make a conscious effort to eliminate prejudice and discriminatory actions.